Okay, so I'm going back to talking about conditions that I have. But I am Christ, so if I have these conditions, then you're likely to have them too, because people are kind of made in my image to be similar to me, even though I don't think that they really are. Although that is part of a Messiah complex. So I have a God complex, which is something inside of me doing what's in the best interest for the timeline. There's also the sort of higher complex, which is kind of also a God complex, which I feel like is something inside of me that is me, and both of them are me. But you also have this that's doing what's best for your next life. So you're there's an overall number of people that God can cope with, and anything more than that, the planet is going to start dying, and therefore your God complex helps you to work out what's best for you with the knowledge of there's lots of other people here and doing what's best for them, which might not actually be best for you. Um, no one wants to go back to being an animal, let's just say that. But technically, you do want that to happen if not being an animal is going to kill the planet, because then you don't have a home or a life or anything, you have nothing. So having something or a life as an animal is best than having nothing. So this is the sort of God complex that is very, very complex. Then everyone has a Messiah complex, which I guess everyone usually has a need to want to do what's best for the people around you, but also yourself. You know, if you've had a horrible, shitty life, then your Messiah complex is so complicated, because on one hand you want to do what's best, but on the other hand you also feel angry, and what you really want is revenge and anger. So the Messiah complex, I guess, is a more mortal version of a God complex, based more on your needs and your beliefs on what is best. And an ad has just popped up on my phone and I can't get rid of it, so I can't read what's next. But yeah, so the Messiah complex is, I don't know how to get rid of that. Um, I don't know. An ad has popped up and I can't get rid of it, and my phone is frozen. How do I get rid of this? Continue to notes. There we go. And so yeah, to explain the Messiah complex, which is where you struggle to decide who you want to be. So maybe there's lots of different versions of you, and you don't know which version to be. I guess your past, your future movements, and how you want to be is going to be partly based on your upbringing and how your parents are, how the people are around you. You might want to be a really giving person, but if your parents are not very giving, if your parents kind of like my mum particularly made me used to worry about money. Like I would see her trying to run through underground. There's like the gates. Try to run through it just to save £3, and technically she's got the money to pay for a £3 underground ticket. But when you see her do things like that, it makes you feel like you have to worry about money and worry. And I don't like doing that kind of stuff. But when you see someone do it, or your mum particularly, you feel like you have to. And so you're getting in this, what do I want to do versus what I should do, and then bad influences of people around you guiding you in different directions. And or someone can make you feel like drugs is normal and okay, and that's how you should handle it. My experience of drugs actually is at uni. There was a few people that I'd hang out with would do it, but they would always be like, "Oh no, drugs are not for you," and therefore I've had that drugs are not for me put into my head. Why? Because that's what they thought, and these were people who actually didn't think there was anything wrong with drugs and would happily pass it to anyone else, but for some reason left me out. And it was only happened a few times, but it happened enough times for me to feel like that's how I should be. But at the same time, I don't feel like there's anything wrong with experimenting with drugs, because technically if other people are going through it, maybe you should experience it so you could feel what it's like to go through it too. But I don't know, because they didn't think so. I feel like you don't. It's like there's lots of different options, and also with the singers and celebrities, I feel like I can relate to a lot of them. But then I also feel I have a huge amount of negative sides, and I have to work out who I want to be. But it's true that if I try to be like any specific of the angels, their characters or whatever, the negative sides will come out. I can try and give people lots of hope and stuff, but at the end of the day, I don't actually know the future, and so maybe I might end up just giving people lots of false hope and stuff. So in Messiah Complex, it's complicated because you don't know how you should be and how it should come out, and then you're also mixing it with your real experiences. And I want revenge and justice for this prison that the world has put me in, and therefore I want to turn kind of evil because of that. So but yeah, I have a human phobia, humanophobic, 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 something like that, which is just where I don't like humans. I feel like there's a lot of dark things going on in Hollywood, and I think it's supposed to be that way, because there's a lot of people that would insult and criticize the film industry, when in reality, I think it's fun. It's entertaining. It gives you a thrill. It gives you kind of a reason to live. Even if you're just a shitty waitress all your life, it's nice to have a horrible, shitty work and then go home and watch a nice film and feel, wow, you've given me something to think about or something to look at. And there's a lot of negative sides in the film industry if you start believing that it's real, or if you start believing that Satan's all doing it. No, but at the same time, it could also give you a reason to live. EastEnders there's loads of negative things that happen in EastEnders, but sometimes I feel like it has given me a reason to live, because why? I want to find out what, the next stage or the next chapter in the characters' lives. And okay, sometimes you don't like the characters and you think, oh, that's a stupid story, but when there's a good storyline, what happens next, and it actually makes you want to live. So you can portray the film industry in as negative way as you want, but at the end of the day, if it gives people a reason to live so that they can be entertained and feel like their life is less meaningless, then it's a really good thing. And I hate people that are just one-sided. I only want to see the good. I don't want to see the bad, because that's just not how life is. But yeah, because there's so many people that only want to see one side, they actually become shallow and only, I only believe my religion. I only believe my side of things. I'm not going to listen to your side of things. And I hate these people. Like, they're so unopen-minded, and it's given me a phobia, actually, because a lot of these people that believe they're righteous believe that it's fine to want terrible things to happen to Jesus. Why? Because Jesus did that for your sins, and because I'm Christ, it's also like, oh, so you want Christ to go through lots of suffering so that you can be saved. And it's just like, well, how much suffering would you want to put Christ through so that you don't have to put that suffering onto yourself? And that makes me fearful of humans, because it's like, well, I am Christ. How much would you want me to suffer for so that you can have a nice, happy life? And that isn't that horrible, to know that there's a lot of people that would be willing to suffer for you. And that is the truth of life. There's a lot of people, children, that are earning like £2 a day, just working and working and working. And we're doing that so that we can get our £15 trainers or whatever. And they're not going to make much for it. And you can't control it, because we like our cheap stuff. But at the same time, how much suffering is the world willing to go through to put others into that sort of prison? But on the other hand, I do believe that lazytitis is a condition that can be cured, and slavery, unfortunately, is the best way to cure lazytitis, because it forces you to work when you don't want to. There's lots of ways of looking at things. Lazytitis is not actually a condition. It's just something that happens when you're not forced to do things. Sometimes, therefore, slavery, in a way, can force you to do things which will force you to learn and to get into the vibe of working and feeling like you have to work. And then once you can have that in you, that need to work, or when you start earning good money and doing good things, then you'll also have that need to work, because it's part of your conditioning and upbringing, and there's good and bad in everything. And and then there's sexist. I think I'm sexist because I think women are better. And I have much higher standards for women. You know, it's not that I have lower standards. I have higher standards for women. You know, if a guy wants to just, I don't know, have sex with a random stranger and leave, I would just be like, well, they're a guy. You know, I'm sexist. But guys, women are better, and guys are not. So that's kind of just what they're like. Whereas if a woman did that, I would just be like, what? Like I would expect better of you. So I am sexist, but at the same time, my sexistness can actually be more of a problem because you know, why should women have higher standards than men? I mean, technically, I know the answer to that. I want women to have higher standards than men. Why? Because women represent me. Hence, I have higher standards for myself. And if you're a woman and your DNA is more similar to mine, then I would want you to have higher standards. Why? Because I would want people to see me as being better than God the Father, and therefore there's good and bad to everything. So sexist, you know, you can see it as, oh, just lock them in the house and make sure they do nothing, or you can say actually put them in the house so that they can force themselves to learn how to have a good life in a house and look after kids, um, and also feel suffering on how bad it is to just to not be allowed to work. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people that are forced to work through slavery, and they are not happy about this forced slavery, and so forced non-slavery, and not allowed to work is kind of the opposite of slavery. But at the same time, there's plenty of women that can complain, hey, you're just leaving me in the house to what, cook and do and then look after kids. I want to work, and it's kind of a contradictory. You know, you can have one life as a slave and then another life where you're just forced to be in a house and not work, and then you're just like, both technically both are bad. You shouldn't be forced to work, and you shouldn't be forced to not work. But it's kind of like this parallel, two opposites that kind of collide. But it helps shape a certain person. But of course, if you have a life as a woman and a life as a man, then one will force you to work too much, and the other one will force you to do nothing too much. But that's talking about the countries that are more sexist. I know sexism is sliding away in a lot of countries that are full of smarter people. But anyway, um, there's good and bad and everything. And then yeah, I have a weird sleep disorder, which is kind of can be so severe that I feel like paralyzed, like I can't move. And then there's a weird taxi dislike. I wouldn't call that a disorder. That's just a taxi dislike. It's horrible when you're in a taxi and then you see a red light, and then you just sit, and then you look at the meter. Wait, and then you see the meter go up by 20p, and you're just like, hey, that traffic light cost me 20p. And then you go around again, and oh, you're in another traffic jam. It's like, oh dear, how much is that meter going to? I get really severe anxiety when in a taxi. I haven't been in a taxi for a very long time, but my uncle took me on a taxi when we went to the zoo both ways, and yeah, to just see that meter just slowly go up, even though I wasn't paying, it's kind of awful. And I don't know. I feel like a similar thing spiritually that happens, because I know that the longer my tribulation is, the worst the outcome of God's wrath is going to be. Why? Because I am God, and the anger that I'm feeling is going to be felt when the truth is out. And I just feel like a taxi. Like the longer you make me wait, the worse the outcome is going to be, and the more the cost is going to be. I'm technically paying for the cost because I'm the one that's just sitting doing nothing, getting confused as to why no one's trying to actually come forward to me. And I'm living on faith because I have faith that God the Father is going to help me, but the world is just copying me, and they're also seeking God the Father, who technically can do more than me. You know, God the Father has physical power and money to do that, and I only have spiritual power to threaten people, saying if you don't behave, I'll turn you into a fish. But right now, no one's going to actually believe that that's what I'm saying is true. Hence, I only have power if God the Father helps me. And right now, God the Father is not helping me. He's just ignoring me. And I think they are helping me through songs and music. But on one hand, it's only going to help me get revenge when people, stop believing and then start believing and start looking at this and thinking, shit, yeah, Anna is inspiring this, and we have rejected her for, well, right now they wouldn't even think. A lot of people don't know about me, so they haven't rejected me. Um, you can't reject someone if you don't know about them. So maybe that's a good thing of pausing it, because the more evidence there is that I'm Christ, when I am exposed as Christ, the more people are going to believe that I'm Christ. The problem is there's also going to be a lot of people that still don't believe, that still reject, and to reject with all the evidence and all the things that link to me, it's going to be a harsher wake up for them when they start realizing that actually these things do link to me in my life, and bad things that have happened to me and stuff. And so I think that's the list of the conditions that I have.